Joining me now, live on set, Democrat Gloria Allred, a victims' rights attorney, and Republican Larry Elder, author and host of The Larry Elder Show. Welcome back to both of you. Our original panel from night one of The Story Is. Good to have you guys back.
Thank you.
So, Larry, should DHS cut off federal funding for states that refuse to comply with the Trump administration?
You know, this whole business about election denying, it's a little annoying to me that Donald Trump is accused of engaging in it when, in fact, every Republican victory since 2000, the Democrats have challenged the election. They did in 2000 after George W. Bush won. About 12 Democrat House members challenged Florida during the certification procedure. 4 years later, 30 of them challenged Ohio, including the senator from California, Barbara Boxer, as did Benny Thompson, who chaired the January 6th Insurrection Committee.
Principles in the election. And then in
2016,
itself.
They challenged more states than Donald Trump did 4 years later in 2020. A poll here at CNN that was discussed by your politics editor, Chris Cillizza, said 76% of Republicans believe there was widespread voter fraud in 2020. Oh my God, this is terrible. Our foundation of our country is undermined. Well, 78% of Democrats, according to Gallup, believe that with widespread fraud in 2016. My long way of saying a greater percentage of Democrats believe 2016 was fraudulent than Republicans feel that way about 2020. Nobody calls them election deniers. It's just so incredibly unfair. And one last thing. Okay. Hillary, for 4 years, to anybody that would listen to her, including a fence post, referred to Donald Trump as illegitimate, her word, not mine, and said the election was stolen, her word, not mine. She's been interviewed many times, including here. I've never heard anybody refer to her as an election denier.
But let's not relitigate that election, but Hillary Clinton conceded the election, called Donald Trump, went on camera, conceded the election, showed up at his inauguration to wish him luck, and showed up at his inauguration again.
And then for 4 years referred to him as illegitimate, said the election was stolen.
But it's not.
Jimmy Carter said that the Russians put in there.
But Donald Trump still hasn't conceded the election from 2020. But you're right that she has questioned
double standard
in terms of Russia, but it's not exactly the same
standard.
Thing. Let's talk about what's happening right now, though, Gloria, in terms of the Department of Homeland Security.
Let's talk about what's happening right now and what this is a precursor to, because this is a dangerous situation. This is not just about past history. This is not just about the claims of President Trump about the past. This is not even just about January 6th. This is about what we can expect in November. He is flashing a red neon flashing light at us, and he is telling us what to expect. And what to expect in November is that he is going to make sure that his Homeland Security people take action in this election, which he expects to lose. That's why he's so desperate, Alex. That's why he's saying he's bullying people, because he doesn't have a good argument to win. He knows he's lost that argument of approval with the American people. So what he's doing is saying, if you don't do this, if you don't give voter-sensitive information, which, by the way, a court recently said Georgia doesn't have to give, and if you don't do this and you don't do that, then officials in the election could be possibly prosecuted, could be sent to prison. Here's what's going to happen. This is dangerous, and we are going to have protests. He is going to try to provoke Democrats. He is going to try to, hopefully not, but maybe he's going to declare martial law and say we can't have a full and fair election. He may seize the ballots, and he has said that he may have to seize ballots. He's tried to seize the ballots in Georgia and elsewhere. So this is a dangerous time, and we have to take action. The only real meaningful action is going to be having overwhelming votes for Democrats in November.
What Donald Trump likes to call too big to rig, what he said last time around. But your thought, you're shaking your head.
There's a real easy way to deal with this. Let's go back to in-person voting, show an ID, paper ballots. If you can't make it because you're sick or because you're on vacation or because you're in the military. Those are exceptions. That's how it was when I was a kid. Somehow, some way, people were able to figure out a way of leaving work and voting in person on the same day instead of having voting season. It's ridiculous. That's what's undermining confidence. And even blacks and independents, Republicans, Democrats, all overwhelmingly support photo ID to vote. Why don't we do that?
Okay, well, first of all, you talk about mail-in ballots and somehow that's wrong. What about people in rural areas? You didn't mention them. A lot of people are not close to where the election headquarters are.
How do we
and
vote?
There is no reason
How did
why.
they vote before?
Look,
before we had mail-in ballots. How did it happen?
There's no reason why we have to rule out a certain class of votes and voters because Donald Trump is afraid of losing the election. Republicans are afraid of losing it. It's not going to happen. Courts are not going to let it happen, Larry.
Right, because he's not a king.
You may wish to have it
He's not a
the
king.
way it was when you were a kid. But this is 2026.
But what do you say the argument that more people are able to vote, it's expanded opportunities for people, it's more convenient, and when people have the choice between the two, most people are choosing mail-in ballots.
If you are concerned about election integrity and you don't like the idea that you're having things like ballot harvesting where you can get somebody else's ballot and turn it in so days after the election, let's just go back to the way it used to be.
You can't turn it in days after the election. That is not legal.
You can mail it in and have it
postmarked
counted
the day of the
later, but
election.
not turn it in your
within
right.
11 days of the election or something.
It's got to be
ridiculous amount
postmarked
like that.
by the day
Here
of the
in California,
election.
it's ridiculous.
But let's talk about the sort of reaction to the speech has been interesting as well. The New York Times has this headline in their paper.
Shocking.
Which I don't know how in touch they are with the Republican base, but they're suggesting that it kind of went in. Trump's election claims land with a whimper among Republicans, and a couple of Republicans who are not going to be back in the Senate soon, John Cornyn and Bill Cassidy, said this about the speech today.
We have 109 days until the midterm elections, and I don't understand talking about what happened 6 years ago in light of these upcoming elections.
As a Republican, my concern is that it's setting up a Democratic wave election. We should be talking about what matters to the people around the kitchen table. And right now they can't afford their health care, their housing, their groceries, or the gasoline.
Whether you agree with what he said or not, Larry, do you think it was good politics to make this a centerpiece right now? Does it make sense? And why do you think more Republicans didn't latch onto this messaging today?
Regarding Mr. Cassidy and the other senator, they were both primaried by Donald Trump. They're no longer going to be serving, and they're a little bit heartburned over what Donald Trump did to them. Yeah. So I wouldn't put a whole lot of store in what they're saying. As far as the speech is concerned last night, frankly, I expected to hear a lot more about Iran and a lot more about affordability than about the election denial, which is why I think it was so unfair. ABC, NBC, and to be fair, your network didn't show the speech. You didn't know what he was going to say, and we're in wartime. So how do you not allow a sitting president, commander-in-chief, during a war, not to air his speech when you don't know what he's going to talk about?
It's not just a speech. It's a bunch of
lies. Let me finish. He said nothing about Iran, but you didn't know that ahead of time.
The problem is so much of what he said were lies.
Let the people determine if he's lying.
Here's the thing.
Let the viewer determine if he's lying.
The people can determine it because there are no facts. There's no evidence supporting many of his allegations. Wait a second. His own CIA chief, John Ratcliffe, he issued a report, and nowhere was there evidence there was actually election interference by foreign countries. There was election influence. They tried to influence it, but no interference in the election. And all of these figures about, these unlawful immigrants voted, there's no evidence that that's any major concern or that was in any past election. So I know facts are inconvenient things for you, Larry, and for Republicans, but there are no facts to support these outrageous, crazy claims made last night.
You know, we know there was interference. We know the Chinese interfered. We know the Russians interfered. Whether it had an effect on the election is a whole different question.
And it's the most important question. Was there any impact on the election? The answer is resounding no.
One quick thing, Alex. I know you don't want to get into this, Gloria, but Jay Johnson, Obama's DHS secretary, testified under oath that the Russians attempted to change vote tallies, failed to change a single one. 2/3 of Democrats, according to a YouGov poll, believe that the Russians, quote, changed vote tallies to elect Donald Trump in 2016. That means 2/3 of Democrats are 2016 election deniers. I've never heard a discussion about any of that.
Well, because frankly, I don't care who's denying what. I care about what's going to happen in November.
Yeah, your outrage.
That's the key.
You have selective outrage.
Well, it just happened on CNN thanks to you.
You got it.
So there we go.
2/3.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah. We have a lot more to talk about, which is why we're going to bring you back in the next hour.
Wonderful.
To get
By the way,
into
Gloria
what's
is
happening.
resplendent in her Republican red. It is her birthday today.
Yeah, well, it's not her birthday today, but it's her birthday recently, and we'll get into that.
And it's not Republican red.
she has a-
it's power red.
she has a-
Is it working to intimidate you? I certainly hope so, Larry.
She has a birth month.
I'll take all the help I can get.
It's
She has a
all
birth
red,
month, like
and she's
voting
looking
month.
incredible for 85.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Yes. Give it up.
Gloria
Give it
Thank
up.
you. Maybe
All
I
right.
can't be president, but I can still be on Alex's The Issue Is.
Okay. Story is and the issue is. We do them all. All right.